Sony have made 2 iterations of Spider-Man. After the second one failed, Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige went to a meeting with Amy Pascal, chairperson of Sony, to discuss if Marvel can use Spider-Man in their constantly expanding cinematic universe. That didn't go down too well. The meeting even ended with Pascal landing a trick shot on Feige with a sandwich. The reason it didn't go down too well is because Sony were planning a cinematic universe of their own. This was even set up at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they teased a Sinister Six movie. However, after The Amazing Spider-Man 2 failed both critically and commercially, Sony met again with Marvel Studios to discuss Spider-Man's character rights and what they can and cannot use. Because Sony realised that the only way to make money was to make other people make the film for you. After that, they got to work on Spider-Man Homecoming and made up, I guess.
You are now overseeing a big comic universe too, because Sony is planning so much more with Venom, with Tom Hardy, with Silver Sable and Black Cat. How will this be all connected?
Well, those movies will all take place in the world that we are now creating for Peter Parker. I mean, there'll be adjuncts to it. They may be different locations, but it will still all be in the same world, and they will be connected to each other as well.
So there is a chance that Tom Holland as Spider-Man will pop up somewhere?
There's always a chance. There's always.
Pretty much, she was saying that Sony's upcoming Venom movie would be interlinked with the MCU. She said this because if people hear that a Venom movie is in the MCU, more people will go to see it, giving Sony more money. Whereas if people knew that it was only being developed by Sony, less people would go to see it due to Sony's poor history with the character. This clip caused a lot of confusion, and a lot of people still aren't sure whether or not Venom is actually in the MCU. Which it's not, by the way. Anyway, to get to the point, Sony are making a cinematic Spider-Man universe, but without Spider-Man. I think the only reason they are doing this is to annoy Marvel Studios. They're able to rub in their faces that they have the rights to Venom and other properties. And if a Sony executive like Amy Pascal says that it's in the MCU when it's not, it will make so much more money. Because Sony have failed to make a Spider-Man franchise work twice when it actually had Spider-Man, people are very skeptical that the universe they're trying to build is going to be awful. As I've just talked about, Sony's cinematic universe will kick off with Venom this October. They were also planning a Silver Sable and Black Cat film titled Silver and Black, but that's in development hell and no one really knows if it's actually cancelled or not. More recently announced they are making a Silk movie, which really shows they are just digging up anything from the list of things that they can make. If you don't know, which is very likely, Silk is the superhero alias that Cindy Moon, a student who was bitten by the same spider as Peter Parker, goes by. It is smart on Sony's hand to make this film as it is a female Korean American lead as Spider-Man, which sounds like it would make a lot of money on paper, but I think that they should do this with Spider-Gwen as that character is more popular and Silk isn't a very good title. Whilst writing this script, I've realised how bad it is, so I'm just gonna let smarter people explain it to you.
Also, there's a Silk movie, it looks like, in the works at Sony, another spin-off of their new Spider-Man universe.
This is the latest in their soon-to-be-cancelled Spider-Man spin-offs. All right,
Yeah.
I'm listening.
They cancelled Silver and Black, didn't they?
Yeah, they
if
did,
that was
yeah.
ever announced.
So yeah, it's most probably not going to happen anytime soon. Another film on Sony's release schedule is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. However, this is not in their cinematic universe as it is an animated film that follows Miles Morales as the main character. This film looks really good, I'm genuinely really excited for it. It's animated so there won't be any confusion if it is set in the MCU or not, and it's the first time Miles Morales is the main character on the big screen. I have faith in this film, unlike Venom. Pause. Okay, whilst editing, I've realised that I'm not very clear in my script, and I just want to clarify that I think the Venom film looks amazing, and I'm very excited for it. However, the whole point of a trailer is to make a film look good. So I'm just worried that Sony are scamming us with such a good trailer, the second one, and then going to end up disappointing us with an awful film. Just putting out that clarification. Okay, resume. The animation looks amazing. It's made to look like an actual comic book at some points. I just really appreciate the art style and it just looks amazing. I'm hoping that this film will just be a Miles Morales film with Peter Parker and Spider-Gwen being secondary characters, and most probably a quick little joke about Peter Porker, the amazing Spider-Ham. Then the next Spider-Verse film will be a proper Spider-Verse adaptation. Many people are confused how the Spider-Man MCU films work. From what I gather, Sony distribute the film, but Marvel Studios make it, instead of Sony just selling the rights of Spider-Man to Marvel Studios. Tom Holland, Peter Parker in the MCU, has a 6-picture contract with Marvel Studios. So far, he's been in 3, but by the end of 2019, he would have been in 5, meaning he only has 1 film left after Spider-Man Far From Home. After the 3rd MCU Spider-Man film, I'm sure Marvel Studios will want to keep making Spider-Man films, because he brings in a lot of money, because he's like the most popular comic book character ever made. So they could have Miles Morales take over once Peter Parker dies, much like in the comics. As seen in Spider-Man Homecoming, Miles Morales does exist in the MCU.
Remember me?
What happened to your voice?
What do you mean, what happened to my voice?
I heard you by the bridge. I know what a girl sound like.
I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. I mean, I'm a man.
These guys are selling weapons that are crazy dangerous.
I don't want those weapons in this neighborhood. I got a nephew who live here.
For some context, if you're not a super comic book nerd, Donald Glover in Spider-Man Homecoming plays Aaron Davis, which is the Prowler in the comics. Aaron Davis is also the uncle of Miles Morales, which is the ultimate version of Spider-Man. They would then have a live-action Miles Morales trilogy in the MCU, and who knows, maybe Sony will even nick Tom Holland and put him in their Sony Spider-Man universe, but that's very far-fetched. To conclude, no one really knows what is going on over at Sony, but what we do know is that this is Sony's desperate attempt to make money by thriving off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Before I bugger off somewhere, I just want to say sorry for how poorly written this script is. I had a good vision in my mind, but then I got distracted by Mr. Bean as it's on Netflix now, and I just wanted to make this video quickly because I'm going to be busy with real life stuff over the next week or so, and I don't want to become a crappy fandom edit channel. Let me know what you think of the new intro. Thanks.
Good time we had. Good time. Good time. Good time. Good time. Good time.
Pizza time.
You're late. I'm not paying for those.
Your shots are so good.